Most gardens fail at the edges. That's where pests slip in, soil dries out, and productivity quietly collapses. I learned this the hard way after years of fighting insects, disease, and declining yields while focusing obsessively on beds, rows, and inputs. The breakthrough didn't come from spraying less or fertilizing more. It came when I stopped ignoring the borders. Rewilding the edges changed everything. Within a single season, pest pressure dropped, pollinators surged, and the garden began regulating itself. This approach isn't new or trendy. It's ancient, field-tested, and hiding in plain sight. Why the edge of a garden matters more than the centre. Ecologists call it the edge effect. Historically, farmers simply called it common sense. The transition zone between cultivated land and wild growth is where the most biological activity happens. Predators hunt there, pollinators nest there, fungi spread there, and nutrients cycle back into managed soil. When gardens are surrounded by bare ground, fences or lawn, they become isolated islands. Pests thrive in isolation because nothing checks them. Rewilded edges reconnect gardens to functional ecosystems that restore balance naturally. How traditional agriculture relied on wild margins for pest control. Before pesticides, farmers depended on hedgerows, ditches, forest lines, and unmanaged borders. These spaces housed birds, insects, reptiles, and microbes that fed on crop pests long before outbreaks occurred. Medieval European fields, African smallholder plots, and Asian terrace farms all shared one feature: wild edges were protected, not cleared. Productivity didn't come from control alone, but from cooperation with surrounding life. When those margins disappeared in modern agriculture, chemical dependence followed. What actually happens when you rewild a garden edge? The first change is invisible. Beneficial insects move in quietly, nesting in grasses, hollow stems, leaf litter, and undisturbed soil. Predatory beetles, parasitic wasps, spiders and birds establish territories. These predators don't eliminate pests completely, they regulate them early. Instead of explosive infestations, pest populations remain low and scattered. Plants experience less stress, which further reduces vulnerability. The system stabilizes itself before problems become visible. You know, it's interesting how neat gardens often suffer the worst pest problems. Clean lines, bare soil, and those perfectly trimmed borders might look orderly, but, well, they actually create biological deserts. Without shelter, predators simply can't survive. And, without diversity, pests just specialize and multiply. Many gardeners, often without realizing it, design perfect pest incubators, then turn around and blame nature for the outcome. Rewilding the edges, though, introduces complexity, which frankly is the enemy of outbreaks. Nature, in the end, favors balance over tidiness. Let me share a bit from my own experience, if I may. I rewired my garden by changing only the perimeter. At first, I didn't touch the beds at all. Instead, I focused solely on the boundary. I stopped mowing one edge completely and just allowed native grasses and volunteer plants to grow. On another side, I stacked fallen branches and left the leaf litter undisturbed. In the shaded corners, I allowed moss, fungi, and ground cover to establish themselves. Within just a few weeks, insect activity noticeably shifted. By mid-season, plants that had always suffered pest damage showed only minimal issues. The core garden really benefited from changes made entirely outside it. Now, you might be wondering how to apply rewilding even in small or urban gardens. Well, edges don't have to be large. A strip just 1 foot wide is enough to make a difference. Along fences, walls or paths, simply allow mixed growth instead of uniform borders. Let your herbs bolt and flower, and leave stems standing right through the season. Try to avoid clearing everything in the fall. These microhabitats act as stepping stones for beneficial species. Even container gardens, benefit when nearby edges support life that moves inward. Now, why do rewilded edges actually improve soil health inside the garden, you might wonder? Well, edges are, in a way, nutrient engines. Leaf litter breaks down slowly here, feeding all those beneficial fungi that, extend right into the cultivated soil. Deep-rooted wild plants, they mine minerals from far below and then redistribute them through their decay. Moisture retention gets a real boost too, since wind is slowed and there's just a bit more shade. The garden interior, it becomes more resilient and all that without extra inputs. You see, soil doesn't just improve where plants grow, it improves wherever life is circulating. Patience is actually rewarded faster than control. Rewilding might feel passive, but it's really a form of strategic restraint. Rather than reacting to pests, you prepare the conditions that prevent them in the first place. Instead of forcing productivity, you support the systems that sustain it over time. The first season, you'll notice visible change. By the second, there's a real sense of stability. And as the years go by, the garden requires less work while producing more consistently. This, in fact, mirrors how ancient food systems managed to endure for generations without ever collapsing. So, what do survivalists and history-minded gardeners really understand about edges? Well, in survival contexts, edge environments are where food, medicine and game tend to concentrate. Historically, human settlements often formed near forest edges, riverbanks and other transition zones for exactly this reason. Gardens, honestly, are no different. The richest yields always come from managed interaction with the wild, not from trying to separate ourselves from it. Rewilding edges, you see, restores this ancient relationship, just on a smaller scale. Now, why is rewilding not neglect, but actually design? Allowing wild growth doesn't mean inviting chaos. It means placing unmanaged space intentionally with a bit of thought. By observing which plants thrive, which insects arrive, and how the conditions shift, you can guide your future decisions. The gardener, in this way, becomes a steward rather than a controller. And honestly, this shift in mindset is often more powerful than any single technique. If this exploration of rewilding the edges has reshaped how you think about pest control and garden resilience, then do consider subscribing to the Hydrohaven channel. And please share this guide with gardeners, land stewards and history enthusiasts who want gardens that work with nature, not against it. The strongest gardens, after all, are built from the outside in.